Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right into it. Today, we're diving into the legendary 1970 Brazil World Cup squad. Now, if you're a football fan, you already know them. They're pretty much the ultimate icon of the beautiful game. But today, we're actually going to peel back that bright, sunny myth to reveal the strict discipline, the really intense politics, and the cutting-edge science that forged what many consider to be football's greatest masterpiece. Right off the bat, we have to talk about a massive technological leap that completely defined this team's legacy. The 1970 World Cup in Mexico was the very first one ever broadcast globally via satellite in live, vivid color. So those mesmerizing canary yellow shirts and cobalt blue shorts shimmering in the Mexican sun, they turned these players into absolute global icons overnight. To put the cultural weight of this moment into perspective, the Brazilian media tracked Pelé's 1,000th career goal leading up to the tournament, with the exact same gravity, literally the same wall-to-wall coverage as the Apollo 12 moon landing. It was genuinely the birth of the modern multimedia superstar.
But this brings us to a really fascinating tension. Because the incredibly joyful, free-flowing Jogo Bonito that the entire world was watching, it was actually constructed during a period of strict military dictatorship back home. The reality on the ground in Brazil in 1970 meant heavy censorship, political repression, and deep social unease under the administration of President Emílio Garrastazu Médici.
So you have this stark contrast playing out. On one hand, President Médici wanted to use the national team as a powerful state propaganda tool. A classic bread and circuses strategy. His government was pushing the slogan, Brazil, love it or leave it. Basically operating on the belief that a World Cup victory would validate and legitimize his entire administration. But on the flip side, for the Brazilian people, the team's fluid football was a desperate social escape. The rhythm of their play actually has deep roots in capoeira, which is a historic dance and martial arts hybrid originally developed by enslaved Brazilians as a tool of resistance. So to the public, the team's absolute freedom of expression on the pitch was the perfect antidote to the rigid control they were facing in their everyday lives. And this clash of ideals wasn't just theoretical, it had a very direct impact on who was actually running the team. The drama completely exploded when the national team's manager at the time, João Saldanha, who was a journalist with communist sympathies, faced immense pressure from literally every side. Not only was he dealing with a highly critical, football-obsessed public demanding a flawless style of play, but he was also facing direct interference from President Médici himself. The president actually demanded that a specific striker named Dario be put into the starting lineup. Well, Saldanha fired right back. He famously stated, "I do not mess with his cabinet, he will not mess with my team." Unsurprisingly, defying the government had consequences, and Saldanha was fired just months before the tournament began.
Okay, so how do you fix a team in chaos? Enter Mario Zagallo. A 38-year-old former World Cup winner himself, Zagallo stepped in and immediately shattered the whole myth that this squad was just some carefree gang hauled off Copacabana Beach. He essentially turned the team into a machine. Get this, he actually integrated NASA endurance research, the exact kind of data they use for astronauts, to prep his players for the brutal heat and crazy high altitude of Mexico. He demanded extreme physical conditioning and, crucially, he imposed a really strict structural order on a roster that was just overflowing with individual superstars.
And Zagallo faced a massive puzzle, fitting 5 absolutely brilliant playmakers onto the exact same pitch. We're talking about Pelé, Tostão, Rivellino, Gerson, and Jairzinho. Every single one of them was the star number 10 for their respective club team. Now, normally, you cannot play 5 playmakers without totally sacrificing your defensive structure. It's a recipe for absolute chaos.
But Zagallo solved this beautifully by implementing a revolutionary 4-2-4 formation, or what some tacticians call a false 4-3-3. He gave his back line and his defensive midfielder very strict positional rules, creating this incredibly solid foundation. But ahead of them, he required constant, disciplined, yet totally fluid movement. The players interchanged positions seamlessly. If one dropped deep, another instantly filled the space. So it wasn't just random flair out there. It was highly choreographed, tactical intelligence. It ensured they always maintained their shape while attacking dynamically.
The absolute linchpin in making this formation work was a player named Tostão, and his specific role as a false 9. Instead of just hanging out up high near the goal like a traditional striker, Tostão constantly dropped deep into the midfield. He acted as a decoy and a primary playmaker. By pulling the opposing center backs way out of their comfortable positions, he magically opened up these massive, gaping holes in the defense for Pelé and the incredibly fast wingers to exploit. Tostão even admitted it himself. He knew he didn't have Pelé's physical strength, so his job was to think quickly and be a minimalist to serve the greater system. Let's put all of this together and look at the ultimate climax, the legendary final goal against Italy, which a lot of people still call the greatest team goal ever scored.
Notice how it all starts with the striker, Tostão, tracking all the way back into his own half to win the ball defensively. Then, Clodoaldo uses his individual magic to literally dance past 4 exhausted Italian players. A sweeping long pass finds Jairzinho, which completely shifts the defense out of alignment. And then, Pelé pauses. He seemingly freezes time and rolls this perfectly weighted no-look pass into the empty space. Right back, Carlos Alberto comes sprinting from deep and just smashes it into the net. That 9-pass masterclass perfectly synthesized their physical supremacy, their tactical order, and their individual magic.
To really wrap your head around their absolute dominance at this tournament, you only need to remember one number: 7. That is the record-setting number of goals scored by Jairzinho, the man they called the Hurricane. Operating dynamically from that right wing, he found the back of the net in every single match of the tournament. And just to put that into perspective, to this day, no one else has ever achieved that feat in a men's World Cup.
And here's another number for you: 6. The team won all 6 of their games. They became the very first nation to achieve a perfectly flawless run to the World Cup trophy. And they didn't just scrape by either. Out of their 19 total goals across the tournament, 12 of them were scored in the second half. That proves that Zagallo's NASA-inspired fitness regime absolutely devastated their tired opponents exactly when it mattered most.
So what is the big takeaway for us here? By blending unprecedented tactical intelligence with innate flair, Zagallo's squad transcended the sport to become the ultimate benchmark. They proved to the world that structure and discipline do not have to suffocate creativity. In fact, when applied correctly, they are exactly what allows individual genius to shine its brightest. They played the game with an artistic joy that just captured the global imagination and forever changed how football is understood.
Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question to ponder. Over half a century later, has any team ever played the game quite like Brazil 1970? Now, football fans will fiercely debate whether Spain in 2010 or Argentina in 2022 might rival them. But what truly separates Brazil 1970 isn't just the hardware they brought home. It's the way they won, bringing a sense of universal joy and expressive freedom to a nation navigating some profoundly complicated history. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope this explainer has given you a whole new appreciation for the beautiful game.